Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, is an interesting piece of work, but only because it brings us to a discussion about the history of Superman 2. To cut a long story short, Richard Donner was the original director for Superman 2, but because of budget issues and other conflicts, he was eventually pulled from the project and replaced by Richard Lester. So yes, the directing cast for Superman 2 contained two dicks. Regardless of the success of the theatrical release of Superman 2, that was directed by Lester, and released in the theaters back in the early 80s, many fans desired to see Richard Donner's original version because they felt as if Lester made the movie a bit too campy with his attempts at humor. But is Donner's original version any better? Well, I could go into the details of the story. I refuse to do so since the ending entirely negates the events of the movie. The only person that remembers any of the events that could have happened are Superman, but his journey to realizing he has to be alone or to serve and protect humanity feels underwhelming to say the least. It also feels like a contrived plot point that serves little purpose, since it's not like Superman is required to spend all of his time with Lois. So his actions feel not only misplaced, but entirely pointless, which is sadly a word I'd use to describe the rest of the film, since the events that take place are of zero consequence, since they never actually happen since Superman goes back in time. Visually, the movie feels dated in terms of its special effects, but that's to be expected considering the film was mostly shot in 1977 and 1979 respectively. While I'm willing to give the special effects a pass, I refuse to forgive the movie for its horrible fight choreography. The placement of the characters and their actions are so poorly integrated together that half the time I'm left scratching my head trying to figure out what is going on, while the better part of the other half is frustrated by the lack of quality camera angles to show the characters in relation to each other. While I could bumble my way through a discussion about the acting and musical score, I'm not willing to further waste my time on this movie to be honest. I realize this story is only one element of a movie, but the ending of that story is pivotal, and the ending of Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, undermines the entire story in my opinion, and the rest of the film as a whole. So in short, I don't feel like this recut of the movie needs to exist. Though to end on a final note, I find it ironic that people complain about Lester's attempts at humor, considering Richard Donner decided to give us this little gem of a scene.
Test marker.